Hey, what's going on, guys? This is the SS Ultimate Goku back with another video, and so today I want to do a discussion about the whole ship of Lelouch v. Britannia from Code Geass. Now, before we start with this, I have a disclaimer. No ship wars, please. This is just all for fun. And it is not supposed to be taken seriously. With that being said, I would like to get into the discussion about who Lelouch v. Britannia was truly into. Or even vice versa. Now, this is quite interesting because out of all the ships in animes that I ship characters with, Code Geass was quite one of the unique ones because I genuinely didn't mind Cece, Shirley, or Kallen being shipped with Lelouch, which is kind of rare. I thought all three of them were completely good ships for Lelouch. Lelouch being the enemy of his family, the royal family, being exiled the way he was. That there's no compelling one that I didn't think had no flaws to it. C2 was contracted to Lelouch because of her having the immortal code, but at the same time, over time, she felt enamored with him, and there was a natural connection with them as time went along. And for the first time in centuries of C2's existence of being immortal, she actually found herself for wanting to live despite being alive for so long, being forced to live for so long. Obviously her Geass, made people fall in love with her. But the thing is that was a forceful thing by her Geass power. That wasn't actual love. C2 had to struggle with not having, someone that truly loved her, without having to use the Geass power. And so when she got the immortal code, and she was living for as long as she did, she went into that type of, centuries upon centuries of not really caring. She lived or died, because every time she died, she was revived because she can't die. So C2, obviously, and we've seen it throughout the story, of her, kissing Lelouch and other interactions that they had, that, they were one that truly could make sense. Now, moving on to Shirley, who was the other one that loved Lelouch. Now, some people argue whether Lelouch loved Shirley or it was only one-sided on Shirley. I disagree with that. And I know that there has been a discussion about that, but I will say from what I've seen, I believe Lelouch truly did care about Shirley, and if he didn't, why would he be emotional in the realization that, he killed her father. You know what I mean? And then he used the Gios for her to forget about him completely, which I guess Lelouch really didn't think that whole thing through, because obviously he didn't brainwash the friends of Shirley who did know about, their relationship prior to her memory being wiped out. So obviously Lelouch really didn't think things through, I think, when he did this Gios power, because obviously she was still going to school. She was still meeting up with friends that she did interact still with, that did interact with Lelouch, and still knew that Lelouch had interacted with Shirley. Shirley was the only one who forgot about everything in this scenario. But at the end of the day, because of her school friends, and then her being wise to look at, diaries and other things that she found that Lelouch didn't take away, because of that, she ended up falling in love with him again. They actually went on a date. Even though that was a school event, it was still, nonetheless, something that, truly I believe that Lelouch had a school crush for her. Now, it probably wasn't there at the beginning, but it was definitely there as, the story was developing. So, I think Shirley, I think Shirley and Lelouch was a good ship, and I think it definitely could have been a compelling ship had they made it canon. Now, moving on to Kallen, which Kallen's probably the interesting one of them all that could have been canon. And it's because Kallen and Lelouch are kind of opposites, but at the same time are the same. So Kallen comes from the background of being half Japanese, half Britannian. However, she chooses to basically side with the Japanese rather than side with the Britannians. She uses her Britannian status to basically be a student, but in reality, she is all for the Japanese cause rather than the Britannians. And that's why she plays this feeble, weakling at school all the time. So people don't know how actually of a badass she really is. Point being is, the way Lelouch and Kallen's dynamic is through the Black Knights is quite interesting, because to me, Kallen's never really was into Lelouch. Now, obviously, early on, she suspected it was Lelouch that was Zero, but of course, Lelouch threw her off track with the Gios powers on Sayako and the, with the phones manipulation and stuff like that, and really threw Kallen off. But the thing was, as she passed on about who Zero was, she ultimately found out who he was based on Suzaku's interaction with him at the end of Season 1. But at the end of the day, she still followed him. She still got him out 2 years later and rescued him and got him back to lead the Black Knight, despite everything that she knew, about him. She even says at the beginning of Season 2 that I didn't do this for you, I did this for Zero. She was more into Zero than she was into Lelouch, even though Zero was portrayed by Lelouch. He was the mastermind behind Zero. She knew this, yet she still stuck by him. This is denial. This is denial. she cannot accept that Lelouch was Zero. But at the same time, she still followed him, which means that she did love him. Okay? She followed him despite all the things that he did. I mean, she knew about the massacre. She knew about his Gios. Zaku said it. She knew about all that stuff. And yet she still stuck by him, rescued him, let him come back into the Black Knights at the beginning of Season 2, right? And then still stuck by him until the bitter end, until literally Lelouch basically spouted off stuff that would force Kallen to leave and go with the other Black Knight members who now wanted to basically take out Lelouch, who was Zero, at Season 2 of Episode 9, or Episode 19. So after all that, she still stuck by him. And then at the end of the series, or close to the end of the series, she kissed Lelouch, when he was the Emperor, still wanting to know why he said, Kallen, you have to live. So even after all that, despite him saying that she only serves Zero, that she's only into Zero, she still sticks by Lelouch, even in the bitter end. So yes, I do think Kallen loved. I think all three of these women loved Lelouch. The question really is, did Lelouch love any of these? Did Lelouch love any of these females? And that's tough to say because, again, Lelouch wasn't thinking that. Lelouch wasn't thinking of a romantic pair. He wasn't thinking of who he wants to get with. He was thinking about trying to make the world a better place for his blind sister, Natalie. That was the whole reason for why Lelouch started doing this in the beginning, was for her, so she would be happy. That was the whole reason she started this. That's the whole reason why this whole plot started. Okay. Now, in the alternate universe of the movie, where the movie universe, which basically had Lelouch survive, even though a lot of people, including myself, for years believed that Lelouch was in fact alive at the end of the original anime series, which he was. I don't care what anyone says. He was. He was. It's there. Literally, and the thing, too, that annoyed me, and we could talk about that in a future video, but, I mean, literally, everything they used in the movie to explain why Lelouch was alive was literally the fans' theories that people would post on Reddit and YouTube or any of the old social media websites out there where people would discuss about it. I remember all these things from years ago where people would talk about these theories. And even I, to a certain extent, was talking about these theories that were brought up all the time, and yet they used it in the movie canon to a certain extent for the most part. And yet, somehow, it's not in the anime canon. Anyways, so, in the movie universe, getting back to the point, though, in the movie universe where Lelouch does live, at the end of the movie, obviously, it is shown that Lelouch and C2 fall in love and are truly a canon couple in the movie. So it is canon. Now, like I said at the beginning of this video, regardless of which one did become canon, I was okay with it because I thought all three of these females had a strong case for being with Lelouch. CC was on a contract, and they had a bound. They had a bond as time went on because C2 never had true happiness for several centuries. So it made sense. Shirley was a high school crush essentially, since Shirley really had nothing to do with the Black Knights or the government of Britannia. She was just a Britannian citizen at the end of the day. So she was kind of, I guess considered the least of everybody since she wasn't involved in the war aspect of anything, even though technically, in a certain extent, she was because her father was a soldier in the for the Britannians, which has kind of led to the conflict. And then Kallen, who was obviously part of the rebel group, the Black Knights obviously was part of the resistance from Japan originally. And she was enamored with Zero because Zero got results. Zero got results that they could never have gotten as a rebel-based organization. There's no way. Ogi and that rebel group would have died without Lelouch assisting them. There's no way they would have made it that far. And Kallen knows that. And that's why Kallen always followed him, because he knew he would get results. Lelouch trusted her with the Gurren Mark II because of how good of a pilot she was. And while, you're only as good as the machine you have, but you have to make the machine your own with the pilot, which is another great reason why Code Geass is a great anime, is, you can have a great nightmare frame, but if the pilot isn't as good as, the piloting skills aren't as good, you're going to lose, even if you have an advanced nightmare frame. And that was kind of the whole thing with Code Geass, is the humans were more important than the actual nightmare frames in Code Geass, which is what another reason why I really liked about it. And I don't really like Gundam as much, because Gundam, it always felt like it was more about the Gundams than it was about the humans. Where in Code Geass, it's the opposite. In Code Geass, it's more about the humans than it is about the nightmare frames. Nightmare frames are more of an accessory than it is an actual thing that advances the plot. The plots are driven by the humans. It's not driven by the nightmare frames. But again, that's another topic. Point being, if I had to rank these, the ships, I would have CC at 1. I would have Shirley at 2, and I would have Kallen at 3. I thought Lelouch and CC had probably the more shipping moments and more consistency to being legitimately canon, which obviously it ended up being in the movie universe. Spoiler for anyone who hasn't seen it yet, but you should have already by now. Shirley, who was brought back in the movie universe, now spoilers again, in the animated universe, she gets killed. But in the movie universe, she actually does not die. Now, they never dubbed the 3 recap movies, so I had to find this out from other means. But at the end of the day, she lives in the movie universe, and she's basically just a pawn to CC, or to C2, I'm sorry. She's basically a pawn to C2. Pizza girl, Pizza Hut girl. That's basically what she is. She's basically, this regular citizen that no one will suspect. So that was how she communicated, so she could get Lelouch around. But in all those times that she was doing that, not one time does Shirley ask about Lelouch. or wanting to get with him. Now, granted, Lelouch was kind of a vegetable at this point, pretty much, in the movie, so that's probably why she doesn't ask about anything. But seriously, Shirley never really made an attempt, or we never really see her talking about Lelouch, who literally was her schoolgirl crush. And that's just something that kind of diminishes it. But again, she was legitimately the only one on screen that did get to date Lelouch in the anime. There was obviously a lot of interactions between the two since they were in the schools. That's where Lelouch was most of the time outside of doing the stuff he was doing for the Black Knights. He was usually at the school. So that's why I would say Shirley would probably be in second. Kallen is in third because, again, Kallen really liked Zero more than she liked Lelouch. Now, granted, over time, she had come to the exception that Zero and Lelouch were one and the same, even though deep down, even though, as she publicly would always say, she would tell people that that's not the case, because she would say, I'm only doing this for Zero. I'm only doing this for Zero, not you, Lelouch. But it was obviously denial by her because she knew that Zero was Lelouch. So that's why I would put her at 3, but obviously there was definitely some admiring towards Lelouch and Kallen. Now, did Lelouch have feelings for Kallen? That's up for debate. There really is not really any physical or showing evidence to indicate that from the stuff we did see in the anime. We seen it more with Cece and Shirley, but she did kiss. She did stick by him. There was some kind of embarrassing moments here and there, but nothing really over the top that you got from Lelouch and Shirley. At the end of the day, at least in the movie universe, C2 and Lelouch are canon. In the anime universe, it's still up to be determined because, according to them, the anime universe, he actually dies. Even though I don't believe that. But nonetheless, that's my thoughts on this. What do you guys think about this? Where do you guys sit on the ships? Were you a Kallen shipper? Were you a Shirley shipper? Were you a C2 shipper of Lelouch? I'd like to know. And please, guys, keep the comments civil when we're discussing this. So that's all I gotta say. I am the SS Ultimate Goku, and I command you to like this video. Just kidding, guys. Out. Peace. Also, make sure to, besides the SS Ultimate Goku YouTube channel, to go and follow my SS Ultimate Goku Twitch, Instagram. I also do have a Discord link, which we talk about anime dubs, cartoons, live-action TV shows, live-action movies, sports, all that good stuff. So make sure to go there. Now I'm out. Peace, everybody.